Black women-owned businesses are one of the fastest growing sectors. And I believe we receive something like less than 1% of the funding, which is crazy to think about. You need money to make money. Self-sufficiency sounds great. However, it's just not realistic. I can't remember the quote, but someone said, like, Black businesses always receive mentorship, but never money.
Hi, everyone. My name is Zahra Amanpour. I'm the founder and CEO of Main Street Assembly. And today I have the treat of introducing you to Terrell Dominick. Terrell is an incredible entrepreneur and just an all-around awesome human. I've known her for some time. I consider her a friend, and I have watched her grow an amazing business, and I'm very proud of her. So thank you for being here today, Terrell. It's really such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me, actually. You
Of
said a
course.
lot of nice things. Thank you.
They're all true. They're all absolutely true. So let's start at the top, Terrell. Let's help people understand why did you start this business, this fashion brand, Terrell Dominick? What inspired it, and how did it happen, and when did it happen?
I actually have been an entrepreneur for a very long time. I run a women's e-commerce brand, TerrellDominic.com, where our tagline is we supply dope pieces for dope women. Our overarching goal is to bridge the gap between disposable fashion and luxury fashion. There is nobody in that in-between space. It's either something that's really, really expensive or really, really disposable and cheap. So we are the player right in the middle. My entrepreneurial journey started a long time ago. I've been at this for a minute. Pivoting. I initially started, oh, Jesus. Now, I don't want to lie, but it was way before kids. I had a vintage clothing brand. I was actually one of the first people to launch a vintage clothing brand online, which very, very difficult thing to do. Extremely difficult.
And what year was that? When did that happen?
That was maybe like 2008.
Oh, yeah. So the concept of even buying clothes online was like, why would you do that?
Exactly. Insanity. That business ran for a while until I had my first child. It's a very difficult business, vintage hunting, vintage sourcing. And that was more of a passion project before I realized, you actually have to be profitable, to be an actual business. It was just something I felt like I was doing as a business, but more passion because it was fun. That business ran until I had my first child, which was in 2011. And I took a break from that. Then I pivoted into handbags. That was in 2016. I offered handbags. I know you probably can hear the accent. Zara, you're probably gonna have to put subtitles on the video. People probably can't understand half of the stuff I'm saying, but I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana.
And
And
you
I
have taught me that it's New Orleans, not New
correct.
Orleans, New Orleans.
Please don't say New Orleans. They're gonna know you're a tourist. I launched a handbag brand that was an ode to the city that birthed me. It was made in New Orleans handbags, which was also a passion project, but that actually morphed into a profitable business. Wasn't a sustainable business. The product was a very difficult product to manufacture. Ran through several manufacturers before we realized that it was a product issue and not a manufacturing issue. So that business went on from 2016 to 2021. So I ran that business for 5 years before, I decided to pivot into ready to wear when I recognized that there was a gap in fashion and a gap just like our what is it? The income gap is widening. It's the same thing across all arts, like you're either getting something extremely like low paying wages or extremely high paying wages. And the same thing in fashion. It's either extremely low or it's extremely high. And I recognize that because at the time my income was somewhere in the middle. And I'm like, I don't want to spend $1,000 just to have a nice dress. There has to be
I feel that. I feel that 100%. Yeah.
right. I don't even want to spend $500. So I'm like, there needs to be some type of, something in the middle. And We launched actually during COVID. It was one product we went to market with that I thought, in addition to that, inclusivity, body inclusivity, there isn't a thing that works for everyone. And that's another gap that I feel like that we are bridging. Most of our styles are one size fits most. It works for a smaller girl as well as a plus size woman. It works multiple ways. You can dress it up, you can dress it down. So that was another thing that I wanted to focus on a lot. So in 2021, I launched one piece, and that piece went viral. And that was the pretty much the birth of my business. And we've been rolling ever since.
So you are a serial entrepreneur.
Yes.
For
Yes.
sure. And I remember those cool bags you had. I never thought I was cool enough to carry a bag like that, but I
Oh,
really
stop.
loved your bags. But, you know, one of the things I've noticed about your brand when I go on your website, when I see your pages, is it's a very distinct look. Like it's,
Yep.
and I get, you know, the body inclusivity. I see that. I see you know, what you're talking about in terms of where you are in the price range, all of that. But you have a very distinct look. Like there's something like that. There's this thread that runs through everything that you create, and it's hard for me to put my finger on it. But maybe you can put your finger. What is that thread? The colors, the look. It's this look that's just beautiful.
It's a je ne sais quoi. I don't even know if I have words for it. The only thing I think about is the houses in New Orleans, right? Like when you visit the city, because everything about my being, about my brand, about my personality, I always go back to the city that raised me, the neighborhood that I grew up in, and it's a very colorful, very vibrant, very lively place. So I would say my brand, even though it's, not necessarily a brand that's based around New Orleans like my handbag was, I would say it's just a reflection of my city. So, when you visit New Orleans, you're there. You know the experience. It's a whole thing. You have to be there to experience it. So I feel like the same thing with the brand. I always have a hard time explaining the aesthetic and explaining my viewpoint. But if I could just connect it to a place, I would say just my brand is like the person, the city that raised me.
That's beautiful. That's such a beautiful way. I've got goosebumps. That's such a beautiful way to put it. I've been to New Orleans. You see how I did that? I said it right. I've
Good
been to New
job.
Orleans twice, but I think I need to go there with you because I want to see that side of the city. Your brand is really beautiful, and it's so, as you said, colorful
Mm,
and
mm.
lively, and you can tell it's alive, and you can tell it's coming from somewhere special. So that's just, thank you for sharing that. So let's jump into your customers a little bit.
Yeah.
Who is your customer, and what is happening with your customer right now? Where are things with your customer?
I primarily speak to Black women. We have our demographics laid out, but I always say like your customer actually is the brand. They tell you what your brand is. You don't really get a say in that. We can have an idea. So I typically attract Black women. I speak to, as a Black women between the ages of 35 and 60. Um, Educated, I feel like we kind of run the gambit with like psychographics and demographics, but specifically just Black women that's looking for affordability, Black women that's looking for style, Black women that's looking for to be represented and see themselves in a brand. So that is my customer, a person who wants to be connected to their community and feel like they are participating in something that's not necessarily just transactional. Like they know I
Yeah.
care about them because I am them. So I would say I am my customer. I have a lot going on. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a mother of three. I care about my community, etc. So I would say that my customer is the same person.
That's amazing. And so you would consider your customers a community of people that have sort of these common traits, etc. And what is happening with your customers currently? What's the current trend over the years? Has there been any trends that you've noticed? What's going on with who you just described?
I think at this particular moment in our economy and our political climate, my particular customer is being what is the word I want to look for? They are suffering the most. They are affected the most by the policies that's happening, cuts in DEI initiatives. I feel like there was a huge spike around the time of George Floyd and when all of these social woes that we've been living with for our whole life was being brought to the forefront. thanks to social media, et cetera. Everybody cared about the Black consumer, the Black woman. Everybody wanted to make peace with us. And I feel like as soon as the climate shifted, that care also shifted. And it didn't only shift in marketing and, what is it, into movies, like you see less of us on screen. It shifted in hiring and firing. I believe the stat right now is we are the highest unemployed at this moment. It peaked at about 7.7% of unemployment rates was Black women. I think it's now at about 6%, higher than across any racial, men and women, all races. We are the highest. I am specifically seeing that, and I'm seeing it across the board with other entrepreneurs that I have built community with. We are not doing as well as we once were. Pretty much clawing and fighting for every bit of recognition, and our customers are hurting. So it's one of those things. It's a very, I don't want to say difficult time, because I think we're a resilient group, but it's a very just challenging right now. In 4 years, the 4 years that I have been in business, I was able to, grow pretty quickly. But now I'm seeing that grow pretty much stagnant. My customer she doesn't have the disposable income that she once did. And although I think fashion is a necessity, it's not food, it's not water, it's not transportation. Like those are the things that people are focusing on. But I do think it's a great time and a great opportunity to go deeper, because eventually, like Black women, we will be rebuilding. And I just want to make sure that I'm around long enough to rebuild with them and give them confidence on the other side of this.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. It's such, well, first of all, the fact that you are your brand and you are your customer too. You see yourself in your customer, I think gives you a level of deep understanding and empathy for your customer that not all businesses have. So that's really incredible. And you go up and down with your
You
customer,
go up
right?
and down with the customer. Even, I don't know how great these practices are, but like last year we kind of was okay with having a slightly smaller margin because we know what the climate was looking like. And
Yep.
I think a lot of our loyal customers were very appreciative of certain things that we did. We went a little above. It hurt us a bit, but I'm like, we can weather this storm with you guys, that'll be amazing. I would love to come up, everybody make it through this together. So yeah, it's been a lot. It's been rough, even on a major scale, like watching businesses. I'm not a huge business. I'm a tiny business. We what like over 4 years we've done 3.5 million in
Mhm.
sales, and there's
That's not a
huge.
tiny business, but
It feels
okay,
like a
relative
tiny
maybe
business
to
to
other
me.
things. But
Right.
congratulations on that, actually.
Thank you. But we're watching major brands like Shutter, like close at crazy rates, and especially like Black women owned businesses. And it's a bit concerning.
I was at a conference recently and someone on the panel said, I think we've all been through we're in that initial like shock. We're coming out of that shock
Yep,
of how horrible and sort of just dark things turn suddenly. But then he said, well, you can take away DEI. Those words never belonged to us anyway. You can have them back. It doesn't change what the struggle has been, doesn't change what the struggle will be. And I
yep,
think people are starting to find their new ground and sort of dig in again and build again, as you said. That gives me hope. When I hear things like that on a panel, that people aren't scared to say things like that in front of a room of like 1,000 people, I say, okay, things are going to come back and things are going to
of
get better.
course.
So let me ask you, you're obviously in this period right now, but what are you doing? Have you pursued different avenues? What are you doing about capital in a time like this? What is happening on that front? How are you adjusting to this? Because that's a big shift in just the sort of the market and in your business.
For the past 4.5 years, I have been self-funded. Some funding from my platforms that I use, like a Shopify, or they're pretty good with funding, but not anything that would necessarily move the needle or just kind of help you stay afloat. Funding is very tricky for my style of business, and my business will be considered small, right? From a funding perspective, there's grants that available, $500, 6,000, like things that really don't necessarily move the needle for the time that it takes to participate in these, I guess, like funding rounds, these very small funding. And just in general, Black women businesses are not funded at the rate of any other business. Like, it is insanity. Black women owned businesses are one of the fastest growing sectors. And I believe we receive something like less than 1% of the funding, which is crazy to think about. You need money to make money. Self sufficiency sounds great. It is great if you can, do it forever. You keep your control, you keep all of those things in house. However, it's just not realistic. I can't remember the quote, but someone said, like, Black businesses always receive mentorship, but never money.
Yep. Yep.
Nobody,
And what does that say?
right. What does that mean? So I do think more investment in Black owned businesses, even under the circumstances, our spending power is pretty dynamic, and it's only a few people that are able to serve us, and a few people that look like us that's able to serve us. Let me say that everybody's willing to take our money. Everybody's willing to serve us. Let me not say that, but
Yeah.
it's only a few people that look like us that's able to fill in that gap. That's a big issue. And I'm pretty much on the fence about it because I know what outside money becomes outside control. And it can be a little, I don't really have the word for it, but I would be a little cautious. I'm a little cautious about constantly calling for like outside investment into our business community, because what does that mean? What does that mean for us on the other side? But I do think there could be a lot more investment to keep our business in afloat and allow us to invest into our communities at a greater number than it is now.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, we work almost exclusively with underrepresented founders, women, minorities, Black owned businesses. And no matter what market I go into, those disparities are just glaring.
It's crazy.
Ironically, it's often markets that on the surface, it looks like people of color and women are getting opportunity, and they're being presented as sort of the leaders of the community, et cetera. But then when you dig deeper, when it comes to the real issues like what you're saying, you have to have access to capital, like to grow a business. That's just a reality of what it takes. And we see time and time again in the markets that we serve that those gaps there's, like you said, abundant programming, abundant on the
Yes.
surface sort of presentation, but below that, you don't find the real things, the levers like capital that are needed to actually push businesses and to help businesses move forward, to grow, etc. So, yeah, I think what you're saying is so true. And it's something that I don't think enough people realize how bad it really is in terms of the disparities.
The gap is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's hard to watch, you watch these like very vanilla brands. It's like, oh, she launched, a tank top brand. And it's like she got $400 million, and we're like doing everything. We're connected to our community. We're doing our marketing. We're doing paid ad strategies, productions, these whole productions that I'm watching bigger than myself, bigger businesses do. And it's like it's crickets. It's like within this girl, it's like socks.
Yeah.
She was bought out for $1 billion. I'm like, oh my God, maybe we're trying too hard.
No, once you get into the complexities, you have to actually start speaking the truth, right? So I think people avoid that at all costs. They don't they
Right.
don't want to get into those complexities. Let's switch gears a little bit. It's 2026, and we are dealing with the elephant in the room, AI. And we do a lot of work with small businesses on AI. I'm just curious from your perspective, one, how do you feel about AI? And then two, what is it doing or not doing for your business? Where do you sit with it right now?
Initially, I was reluctant. Okay, I'm like, okay, I can see, as a Black person, a Black woman, making us obsolete in certain areas, right? Like, oh, we don't necessarily need you to do this, or we can steal your creativity, your music, and we can create an AI person to do it. So I was a little reluctant because I was only looking at it from that particular lens. Once I settle down a bit, I don't want to be a dinosaur, I don't want to be the person like, this is terrible. And the world passes me by. At the end of the day, I'm still a business owner. And as an entrepreneur, whatever color you are, your goal is to be profitable. So I'm not naive in that area. So I have embraced it a lot more. And it has been great for tasks such as like copywriting, content, great with content, certain design aspects is helping me bridge the like certain things that I'm not aware of. I'm able to close those communication gaps from ideas to manufacturing, which has been amazing. Low level certain tasks like email responses, automations, those type of things. I've used AI for those that aspect. Using it from a creative perspective, I was talking to someone the other day and I'm like, I don't think we're there yet. With AI from a creative perspective, I say to me, AI is still kind of like fast food, right? If you're hungry, you can stop and get a really quick hamburger. You won't be hungry anymore. But is it the best hamburger you could possibly eat? I don't think so. So I'm there with it. I still think from a creative perspective, you still need humans, right? Photography, like certain editing you can get away with, but like high level production, I don't think it's there yet. And my other little woe with AI is that the Black creatives that I work with, that their jobs become obsolete. So I don't know how we make sure that isn't happening. Like, are we training our creatives on these systems so we're not just replacing jobs? And I think when that happens, people at the bottom are typically the first ones to go. So that is a concern of mine. But I will say I have been embracing it. And I do think it is a great tool, especially for like tedious tasks. But I
Yeah.
have not necessarily gotten to a place where I'm like, singing its praises just yet. Like I said, it's like a McDonald's hamburger, right? It's not like fine dining just yet. It's
No,
not like,
no, and then
yeah.
you don't know what's gonna happen later either, like
Right. So I'm just like, I'm staying the course with it. I feel like it's helped, especially with certain like writing tasks and content things that I would have outsourced. So it's saving me a lot of money there. So I'm with it there. I'm with it there.
so it sounds like I mean, I agree with you. I think we're not deliberate about interventions that are going to help the workforce adapt to, and specifically, again, communities that are underserved. If we don't have specific interventions in mind, they are already the first to be cut, right? So I agree with you. That has to be something we think about. And as business owners, that's something that we do think about because small businesses in particular are very close to their workers. They're close to the people. They're not, 10 notches removed, right? So we think about these types of things. So yeah, it's something that I'm trying to struggling with myself is like, what's the right, because I'm like you, I believe in it. I want to, be in front of it. But at the same time, there's these realities that we have to actually be very deliberate about how we approach them. It sounds like you use it for content. You use it for some of your sort of communications, marketing, photos. You said it's not there with photo shoots yet.
It's not there. It's like I said, it's more like a McDonald's hamburger, right? It was something small as like just creating a model, and it's very time consuming. I'm like, this is a myth that, I also want to know what type of regulations that we're going to see in the workforce, right? Management down, like, okay, we eliminated this job, but if this one person has to train AI, has to correct AI constantly, like, it's just one person now just working four jobs, the four jobs that you eliminated. So I'm finding that that to be a thing. Like I spent a lot of time training it, and correcting it. And I'm like, I don't know if this is saving me. It's saving me money, but I don't necessarily know if it's saving me time at the present moment. We did decide to do some creatives like an AI model and putting, some of the clothes on the AI model to see how that thing works. And it's still, like I said, it's in its infancy phases. It's not the same as a clear, photo shoot for like a bit like my business. I joked with my husband. I was like, I could have had 7 photo shoots, like how long it took me to just put one dress on on my AI model, like the consistency. So it's things like that. But I don't know if people, when they speak of AI, if they're speaking like this, I don't know if this would be considered like low level. And I'm dealing with it from a low level perspective and not necessarily like elevated, something I'm missing.
Yeah, I don't know that we're there yet. I think we're all figuring it out, to be
Okay.
honest. Like there's people that at first they sound like they know what they're doing, but then when I have a conversation, I'm like, you don't know anything more than I do. Actually, we're all in the same boat together. So it makes me feel better because you want to make sure you're up on it, but everybody's, I think, figuring this out, and it remains to be seen. I think
Yes.
whether things like what you're describing, creative work, will ever be independent of human. Like
Correct.
I think there's certain things that I hope that we land on that will say, nope, this is for humans and only humans.
Right. I had a little fuss with my AI, like, but all of my, I use a few of the popular ones, Claude, Gemini, Chat. And I'm like, what are you here for? Like, why did you do this? And it's like, we're sorry. I think you need to just hire a photography editor. I'm like, you could have said this 7 hours ago. Like, we've been working on the same thing over and over and over. So it's certain things that I still think, it requires a human touch. I don't think we're all the way there yet, and I'm not sure. I mean, I'm optimistic, about it. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a dinosaur. I'm not gonna become extinct because I'm like, I want to send a pigeon to send a message for me instead of sending a text message. So,
Absolutely. No, I think we're all going there together. We're on this journey, this adventure together when it comes to AI. So success to you with AI at this point, you said it might be saving me money. So at least obviously you're looking at that. But at this point, it's like, is it actually saving me time? Is that you think the most important thing for you right now from AI perspective?
I would say I needed to save me time, not necessarily money. In my business, time is a little more valuable. There's several different things that I could have done in the time that I was spending with, AI. So I would say for me, I don't necessarily think it's the time for me is more valuable and how many tasks that I can complete as opposed to money at the moment. I could have made the money back already.
Exactly.
Right.
Absolutely. You got to wait. No, people don't think about that, right? Absolutely. Absolutely. Tell me what's next for Terrell Dominic? What's the next big thing? What's the next exciting drop? What's happening next that we should know about?
We are I guess, focusing on connecting with the customer because, I say it all the time. Yes, I have unique pieces. Yes, it's like something you mean, can't get anywhere else, but address is address is address, right? So I think once we reestablish that intimacy with the customer, then we'll have them to buy more to what we're doing at Terrell Dominic. That's not just a dress. It's bigger than a dress. It's bigger than just a transaction. I feel like, we're trying to scale. My business starts to feel a bit more transactional. It's just trying to grow, 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 grow. And I think that became a weakness of ours instead of going deeper, faster. We were going fast and not going deep. So my focus this year is just we slow down a lot with, constantly offering things to the customer and just wanting to listen to the customer and connect with the customer and allowing the customer to connect with me and connect with the brand and the brand's mission. So that is the main focus of 2026 for me from a creative perspective, going back to the drawing board, what the customer actually wants, what they've spoken and told us that they want, and providing them with that with ease. So that's all 2026 for me.
But that's such a powerful exercise. This is like what it is to be a small business owner is you have to humble yourself and say, wait a second, what have I lost sight of? Right? And then get back to it. And I think in business we say over and over again, it's about relationships, but people are thinking about like capital relationships, this, that. But actually
No,
the most important relationship we have is the relationship to our customers. So I think that's such a powerful thing.
I think it really is a cheat code. It's like the brands that's really connected and dialed in with their customer, they will be the big winners from this whole thing that we're experiencing collectively, just as Americans. I think they will be the big winners in this. The people who, we're walking together. What you need, your needs are my needs, your concerns are my concerns. Like, I think that's what my priority is here at, just going back to what I was when I first started.
That's beautiful. Such a beautiful thing. I just want to say thank you again, with everything. And I thank you just for doing this, but more importantly today, thank you for your candidness and your transparency about what is happening to your business, to you as a human being, and to our society really is what you're talking about. And I truly appreciate that. And that's a perspective that we all need to hear, and we all need to sort of get it out there more and more and stand strong on it. So thank you so much for that today.
Thank you so much for having me. And I hope I did well. I hope I gave you everything you needed.
You did, absolutely.
Okay.